I'm just going to work on a song while people are arriving. I've been learning this Snow Patrol song. Actually, this is the same guitar that he plays it on, Gary Lightbody. Gary Lightbody. Lightbody. And that's just a coincidence, actually. Let's play it again. Name that tune. I kind of gave you a hint if you're here early. Name that tune. Here we go. That way I can see if I've learned the song right or not. Here we go. Tell me, won't you open your eyes? You got it. Tell me, won't you open your eyes? Tell me, won't you open your eyes? Tell me, won't you open your eyes? Or something like that. Yeah, Dr. McFarlane got it. How do you get that? You play that song? Welcome, everybody. I'll talk through that before I start the show, but just say hi to the early risers. Dr. McFarlane's here. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. Vic G, good to see you. Vic G, sorry, good to see you. Voice cut out there for a minute. Rosanna, good evening, Aaron, everyone in the chat. How you doing? Thank you for moderating. David, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you here. And yeah, Doc, you got that right because David Eidelberg wasn't here. Although I don't think he would know that song somehow. I'm just guessing. Love the telly. So there, this is my you know, as snobby as I am and all the guitars I've ever had on my channel, this is the oldest guitar I own. Personally, I've had in my life, and this is a made in Mexico Fender Tele Deluxe that I wanted as a teen, like in my early 20s. This is the guitar that I wanted. I don't remember why. I think Franz Ferdinand played these. I mean, now I'm all about the rosewood, the thin necks. This has everything that I don't like really. It's got the maple board. I like rosewood. It's got a fatter neck. I like thinner necks. It's got the 70s headstock. I like the 60s headstock. But the thing about a guitar, like, and it's also on the heavy side, it's over 8 pounds. All the things now that I would run away from. But it's a great guitar because it's no nonsense. It's got 3 positions here. You know, nothing fancy. I did have the pickups changed to Lollas, and the Lolla pickups are worth as much as the guitar. But we all know the pickups the most important thing with a guitar, right? And the old ones just felt a bit flubby and undefined. And I don't remember now what they sounded like because it's been so long. But these pickups, I mean, the weird thing is these are humbuckers, but they're still noisy. If you listen, and they were all noisy. Like this position here, there's some noise, right? Which is the bridge. And there was noise on all the positions. And I had it shielded. Now, normally shielding will get rid of all that noise. And the weird thing is the shielding got rid of the noise on this neck pickup, but it didn't get rid of the noise on the bridge pickup. Maybe someone can tell me why that is. Eventually, I'd like to have it shielded so well that there's no noise on any pickup, because the idea for me with a humbucker is that it bucks the hum. You don't have any hum. And especially in this room, in this apartment, I get so much hum from everything. So it's a really nice thing to have that completely hum-free sound, right? And also, you know, I love Strats, but they're thin sounding. Humbuckers just sound so fat. So if you play, if you're used to playing an acoustic guitar, you get that fat sound. And that's a Princeton. It's going through a Princeton. So it's just great. You can play your clean rhythms. That red dot is back. You see on my finger here? There's a red dot. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. I need to ask Peter Gregg what that is. Looks like blood, but I swear it's not blood on the camera. Nothing that fun has been happening here. All right. So yeah, and then you just switch to this neck position if you want to do more like country, or you can distort it, of course. But I would eventually like to get rid of that hum. Yeah, I just think it's funny. I think it's a funny thing because I'm selling lots of gear right now. I won't sell this. This has a lot of sentimental value. This is the only old guitar, you know, personally old to me guitar that I've kept. All my first guitars and things have been sold long time ago. This one and the acoustic I used to record my album are the only two guitars that I've kept. So I'm not going to ever get rid of those two, I don't think, unless I had to. But I would like to find out why I still get the hum. It sounds like there's a grounding issue there, or it needs some more, even more shielding tape. Yeah, but this position's quiet, and that's important to me when I'm playing at home. Especially, I often play at home without backing tracks, without a band, so I don't really want to hear all that buzz and hum. I want to hear like I'm playing acoustic, right? So it's just clean. I don't want to hear that zzz. It's very quiet, to be fair, on this guitar. In fact, it just went away, but it came back. So I know something's up there, but this is like if you're into acoustic and you're going to play in a band or something, you get one like this, and then it's so easy because you just have this position here for your rhythm sounds, and then this position for your lead sounds. So you got like a bright bridge sound and a mellow sound, and you've got the in-between sound if you want it as well. That almost sounds more like a P90 to me. And then, yeah, well, you get it. It's a great all-round guitar. If I was going to keep one electric, I should probably keep this one. Probably, because it would do any band gig, you know. Lee, how you doing? Are you working today, Lee, or are you off? Vic says Telly body and Strat neck. This one? No, this is the Telecaster Deluxe, and as far as I know, they all have the 70s style headstock. But the funny thing is, I know Vic said someone said Vic said I'm not a fan of the 70s headstock either. But you know, the funny thing is, I like this guitar because I got this at a time when I didn't know all the intricacies of all the geeky stuff. I saw this guitar and I wanted this guitar. So I got this guitar, and it didn't bother me at the time about the headstock or the pickups or where it was made or the price or the weight, or none of that stuff mattered back then. I just wanted the guitar, and I gigged it for several years in London. Still looks in great shape. There's a lot of pick marks here, but you can't really see them on the camera. I guess you can if I put it in the light. There you go. But it's held up really well because it's a polyurethane finish. But I like this guitar because it comes from a time when I didn't care about this stuff. But obviously now I care about this stuff because I make videos about it. I'm trying not to care so much about it. But this is from a time when that stuff didn't matter. And it is still a great guitar. And do a few ounces of weight and a big headstock really matter to me? No. I would happily play this. I got no problem playing this guitar. So it's a reminder to me. Yeah, these are lollers. I don't think they are humbuckers. I think they're more like P90s stock. So I don't think they're meant to be as noiseless as humbuckers. But I know that when this was shielded, I know I had it shielded by Evan, and I know that this one is now quiet. This wasn't quiet before. This had the hum. But this one still has the hum. I don't know why that is. I wonder if it could be shielded further under the scratch plate to get rid of all the hum. That would be nice. All right, let me see here. You don't have to put a cube. If you don't put a cube, I don't answer your question, then it's not my fault. 60. That's funny. I don't remember that song. I remember the one. Light up, as if you have a choice. I remember that one. Light up, I should sing it. I should at least try and sing it in tune, right? Light up, as if you have a choice. Even if you cannot hear my voice, I'll be beside you, dear. That's it. Louder, and we'll run for our lives. Da, 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 da. I'll be right beside you, dear. Snow Patrol know how to write some good ballads, don't they? But I don't know anyone around here that plays Snow Patrol songs. So I don't know how well they'd go down. But they're nice songs. I mean, they're 3 or 4 chord wonders, right? 1, 5, minus 6, 4 is Light Up. And the one I was playing earlier, Open Your Eyes, is a 1, 4, minus 6, 4. So it's all kind of songs by numbers. But they're nice, aren't they? They sound nice, don't they? Like if you want to write a nice riff, play up the neck up here, and then keep that motif going, and then just change the bass note, and then you go down for the big power chords for the chorus, which is the same chords. It's only 3 chords. It's just G, C, E minor 7, and C. But it would be such a boring song if they just started the song like that. So playing the riff up here in that position. Doesn't the quad... it's funny. So last week I had the Quad Cortex. I didn't tell anyone. And someone did ask the question, what amp are you playing through? I wasn't. I'd wiped the thing. I was on the first preset because they released the update the Tuesday, the day after. I was literally on a fresh install with the first preset, no changes. And I was playing that last week and people were asking me what the amp was, which made me happy, but that was a little test that I was doing. Sometimes I'm naughty and I do those tests. I do apologize. But the reason I do it is because once I tell people what I'm playing, it can affect the way they think about it. Now, I don't like that, actually. I don't like the way Josh Scott did that. He played a Kemper for a year and then told people it was a Kemper. Yeah, I get it. You can feel like you've been led into a trap. But I do like just maybe one show just to not say what I'm using, just to see what people say without any idea, just to get a feel. But I agree. I think it sounds just like an amp. I think it sounds incredible. I really do. I love it. So I did sell the Kemper rig this week. I've got a Kemper expression pedal if anyone's interested, but I sold the Kemper and the cab. The room is much more empty now. Of course, not this virtual room that you see, but the actual room itself I could actually move around in, which is a really wonderful thing. So I'll be making lots of content on the Quad Cortex going forward. So look out for that. All right, let's get to some questions then. Jeffrey, good to see you. How you doing today? Are you still happy with the Boss Looper? Great. Let's talk about loopers. I love it. I just love the randomness of this show. It's great. So we're going to talk about loopers, including the RC500. So, I keep talking about my cull of gear, right? I don't want to bore you, but it will lead into my opinion of the RC500. So I think it's worth involving that in the conversation. So at the moment I have the RC500, which I'm a big fan of. It's a kind of 3-button small format looper. I also have the RC600, which is the bigger version with more tracks and more features. That's the flagship that all the others are derived from. I also have a small Ditto X2, which is the classic TC Helicon, just 2-button foot switch, nothing fancy. And I have the Aeros looper. And I also have the Voice Live 3 Extreme that I use for my gigs. So hopefully now you can see why I'm having this cull right now. Is that the right word? But also, let me tell you about these loopers. As I have these loopers, I've been using them. Let me tell you what I think about the 500 compared to these loopers and how it fits in with everything. So the first thought I have about loopers is they're all terrible. They're all missing a feature. None of them are perfect. A bit like a lot of the gear around, right? There's no perfect looper. And I think the loopers suffer even more than like the guitar modelers. And the reason for that is some of them just basically have more features that you may or may not want. So the Ditto X2, I'm looking at it on the floor, is a great size. It's battery powered. It's simple. It works really well. It's portable. I love it for those reasons. But when you clear the memory, you get a click, a popping sound. So I don't like that. I think that's awful. So I'm going to keep that one for my demos because I leave the batteries in. And if I'm doing a video where I need to quickly use a looper, I mean, there's a looper in the Quad Cortex as well. But sometimes I want to run a looper into the Quad Cortex and then into something else. So I'll keep it for that reason. Also, because it's got that noise, I don't feel comfortable selling it anyway. That's annoying, But anyway, that's another story. So for me, that's something that I need. Then for my gigs, I use the looper that's already in the Voice Live 3. I like that unit. As I've said before, it's an all-in-one. I don't want to take another looper as well because that's already got a 2 or 3 track looper in it and it works really well for my application. So I like that. So there's 2 products there that I like. Now the Boss stuff is interesting because they've got a lot of different variations of their loopers. The 500, the 600, the single pedal, which is only 1 foot switch, which I don't really recommend unless you buy an additional foot switch to make it 2 foot switches. And the one that's got the one that I used to have, the 10R something. The one that I sold when I got the 500. So all these options, so you've really got to decide what you want. Do I like it? Yes. As I said in my other videos, I'm a big fan of the 500. It's a great pedal, but it does have a lot of emissions as well. Like the MIDI is not hard to program, but I don't think you can do the MIDI as a global thing. You have to do it per preset, which is a bit of a hassle. There's a few quirks. And the problem I have with the Boss stuff is they don't have like an easy to use editor. You have to do it all from that little tiny black and white screen, and that kind of sucks. Because on the Quad Cortex, one reason that I kept that over the Kemper and over the HX Stomp and all the other ones is it's got that big touch screen. And now I've moved it up to this level beside me here on my right side. You can't see it. I can just reach over and use the touch screen. I want to see a looper with a touch screen. Now, it's not a total deal breaker because it is still a great unit. And do you really need to be programming it all the time? If you don't, if you're just going to use it as it is, then that's fine. But if you want to make it more advanced by programming MIDI and setting it up a certain way, you can do it, but it's a bit of a hassle. Then you've got the Aeros looper that does have a touchscreen, but it just seems a bit of a incomplete product to me. They have released a new beta version, which is supposed to add tons of new features that have always been missing from it, but it just seems like that's going to be a while until that thing is finalized, and even then, I don't know if I'll trust it. It's been so many years since I had the Aeros, and it's been kind of waiting for these updates. So that one's probably going to go. So yes, okay. So to give you an answer, it's really hard to recommend a looper these days. None of them are perfect. None of them are amazing to me. Some of them are trying really hard. Like the Aeros is great on paper, but not in practice for me. The 500 is great in practice, like at a gig. It's very stable, very kind of obvious how to use it. But when you want to deep dive and program it, it's a bit of a hassle. I don't understand why we're not using computer editors and apps in 2023. It seems a bit weird to me. And then the basic ones like the Ditto and those kind of ones, they're nice, but they're a bit limited for some people. They're just a basic looper, right? So that's why I now use the Voice Live 3. The looper in that is very good, and it's in the pedal that I take with me anyway. So if you sing, that's my advice. If you sing and play acoustic at gigs, get the Voice Live 3 Extreme. They've just come back into stock at some places. And if you're interested in just an all-round looper, and you do need more than the Ditto X2 would provide, then I would probably say, yeah, I'd probably say the RC500, unless you want really advanced options. But then again, the others don't really have advanced options, and apart from the Aero, so that's still a bit, untested waters right now. So yes, the 500 frustrates me to say that is a great, that's my recommendation, because I want it to have that editor, but it doesn't. So what am I going to do? Right? We need more loopers. The Headrush looper is awesome, but it's massive. So if this is for home, for live streaming, and you're not going to go anywhere, get that, because that's on sale right now at $500. That's a good deal. That's a really cool product. But it's massive. I'm all about the smaller gear now. So yeah, the RC500 gets a thumbs up from me, but it's not the be and end all. But then again, no gear is the be and end all. But I do think Boss need to start doing decent editors for all their loopers and products like that, right? Excuse me, some dust in here. So that's my answer to that. Vic G says, I'm not a fan of this. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I'm not either. I would never, if I was on Sweetwater right now looking for a guitar, I would not order this one. Everything about this is what I don't like, but I like the guitar and it sounds very good. So I think sometimes we get spoiled with the gear stuff. Like the more knowledge we have about gear, sometimes can be a problem, because then we're like, it must have this, it must have that, it must have this, it must have that. Sometimes you get those guitars and you don't even like them, right? You've got too many, and you overlook other things. You overlook guitars that are really nice sometimes. Let me know if you've got stories about that. I mean, that's just my experience. If this guitar wasn't around, I wouldn't be thinking this. It's just that this guitar is in my hands right now that I'm thinking that way, right? Yeah, they're Lola. They're not Imperials. They're Lola. They're the only ones that would fit in this guitar. I remember that. So I'll have to do some research on that. Maybe take it back to Evan, have it redone again. Patsy's here. Max says play Wonderwall. I lost all my monetization last week from playing covers, but I guess I've already played one, I guess. Let's see. I'll play it twice as fast, and then we'll see if I get a copyright claim. Okay, ready? And it's in a different key as well. There we go. Hippie, what's up, bro? It's Wonderwall only in B. Oh, Blunderball. Lots of rock and roll have been made with those kind of guitars. Yeah, they're great. These are rock and roll guitars. They're quiet, like this, especially when it's shielded correctly. Look, this is quiet. There's no noise. It stays in tune because there's no trem. The strings go right through the body like a hardtail. All right? And like the reason Noel Gallagher plays Gibsons at his shows is that these kind of humbuckers give you that fatter tone. There's 10 gauge strings on here, and these kind of humbuckers give you that fat. It gives you a big sound, right? Whereas Strat can kind of give you a weedy sound sometimes. So I understand that too, especially if you're in like a 3-piece band. That's important. Lee says, got a day's holiday, do my physics assignment. Oh, really? Are you studying? Right, here's another question. I love these questions. I like random questions. Hello, please. You have to be aware. I'm very, these are not recorded videos. I just speak whatever I feel at the time. So I should put a disclaimer on the screen saying, this is my thoughts today. I may change my mind tomorrow. I'm not that indecisive, but I reserve the right to change my mind. Hello, please. I'd like to hear your thoughts about using acoustic IRs and different type of pickups on stage with the band. You promised to post about it. I apologize. Maybe a few words more in this chat. Yes, that's what the Monday chat is here for. Those videos that I don't deliver. No, I am. I've got an IR pedal ready to go with settings ready to go with a K&K to show how I got the best sound from it, and that will be that's a video that must be made. It's going to be very useful to K&K fans, I'm sure. But I'll just give you an answer now. I apologize for not reading out your name. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about using acoustic IRs and different types of pickups on stage with a band. I mean, I'm gonna my whole channel. It's funny, I'm sitting with an electric. The whole channel really is about acoustic guitar amplification. That's what I do. I do play in a band sometimes with electric, but I can do that for you. So acoustic IRs. What's the word I would give you is frustrating. So I just made a video on the Quad Cortex. I compared a real amp, my JP2C amp, to the JP2C model in the Quad Cortex. And I was ecstatically happy because they sounded the same. This has not been the case with many guitar products. Now, people will disagree, and there's lots of videos out there that prove me wrong on that, but I don't care. This is my channel. This is my opinion. I've never plugged into a simulator and had a real amp next to it and compared the two and had the same sound. The Quad Cortex give me that. Neural DSP have nailed the models in the QSC, in the Quad Cortex to sound like a real amp, at least recorded directly. That's what I want from acoustic IRs. They haven't figured it out yet. None of the acoustic IR pedals that I've tried, when I make the IR, and also this is important, you must make the IR of your guitar and pickup. You don't buy people's acoustic IRs from the internet. That's not a good idea, because an acoustic IR is supposed to be, it's matching your pickup with your guitar. So even if I made even if I made an IR with your guitar and pickup, like if I had the same guitar as you and I made it here and send it to you, it's not the same guitar, is it? It's not your guitar. It's got to be your actual guitar and your pickup inside it. And that's why the Tone Dexter, the NuX, and the LR bags are so promising, because you can do that yourself at home. But so far, none of them, and I just listened back to them the other day, actually, just to see if I was crazy. None of them sound exactly like the mic, not in the same way that the Quad Cortex sounds exactly like the amp. So I'm hoping that will happen. Until that happens, I'm not really interested. As I stated in the video the other day, I'm so frustrated with all these products that promise to do things and just waste my time. So I'm seeing how openly I'm talking. So that's what I want. I want a product to come along and say, right, you plug in a mic, you plug in your guitar, you get the IR, you play them back to back, and you cannot tell which is which. Then I'll be excited. But the thing is, you see, that's not going to be the answer. That's not going to be the end-all solution. Because if you record an acoustic at home and stick a mic in front of it, what you find is when you record that directly in, that sound isn't very good. Right? When you listen back to it, it can be good if you've got exactly the right room, exactly the right mic, exactly the right position, exactly the right guitar. But most people that record acoustic instruments with microphones go into some kind of EQ and processing. Most people go into compressor. Yeah, think about a studio where you're recording a song. They'll go into a DI, a compressor. They'll shelve off the lows. They'll EQ in the way in. They'll capture your acoustic. And then they'll process it again before they make the record, right? So what good is an IR of just a mic stuck in front of your acoustic guitar when you would never use that, or you most likely would not use that in a recording anyway? So there's a few things here about acoustic IRs. One is the technology is not yet matching the sound exactly as you get from the actual guitar through a microphone. And two is that even when you do get that far, that will still not be a matter of just plug and play. You still need to then process that signal. And you may want to blend that signal with the pickup you already have to add definition. In the same way that if you record an acoustic guitar and blend in your pickup sound in the recording, you get more definition. You probably want to do that live as well. Or you at least want to do something like the Bags Anthem does, where the IR does the high end and the pickup does the low end to resist feedback. Because I don't care what anyone says, these contact pickups and microphones have a problem with feedback below 200 hertz. And that's a problem that the Anthem solves by having that undersaddle pickup for the low end. So you have to treat the IR like the mic, which is what it is, and you still use your pickup for the low end and use the IR for the high end. Okay, so there's a few kind of, I think, misconceptions and things that I've learned from. I mean, I've been learning this since the Tone Dexter came out. That was 5 years ago. I didn't know I didn't know how it worked or what it was, and it's taken me this long to get my head around it. I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't do engineering and stuff, but I've just figured out what's happening and why stuff's working and why stuff isn't. But the biggest thing for me is they don't yet match the mic 1-to-1. So I want a product that matches the mic 1-to-1. And then what I would do is EQ that mic and then decide on the blend between the pickup and the mic. And that would be a great live sound. But it still won't get me where I need to be because I like the body tapping sounds. And if I just have an undersaddle pickup, I still won't have those. So I still have a problem. At that point, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's better just to use an Anthem or a Cole Clark or a Maton or something with a good body sound. But I also believe that the future of acoustic amplification is digital. Because as great as my Cole Clark is, as fat as it sounds, and as percussive as it is, you can still hear that it's a pickup. It doesn't sound like a mic'd acoustic. So I would still like to get to a place where I have the sound of an actual mic'd acoustic, which is what this is. This is the sound of a mic'd electric amp. I want the option of having the sound of a mic'd acoustic. Even if I have that sound for some performances and the sound without it for other performances, I want that option. I don't feel it's being delivered yet. So that's why, long story, but that's why I'm not using IRs live. I have used them successfully with a lot of tweaking, and that will be in that video that I promised you. But the reason I haven't rushed to make that video is it didn't change my life and make me want to use IRs all the time. I still think they're kind of a hassle. You still have to take that pedal with you. You still have to do a load of work to make it work live. Not if you're using the K&K, you still got to notch out all the feedback. So I'm not bothered with that. The pickups I recommend right now is if you've got an existing guitar you want to amplify, it's the Anthem SL because it sounds very natural and gives you the body sound, but it doesn't give you the feedback issues of the other systems. And by the way, I weighed it as well. It's like 3 ounces plus the battery. It's nothing. It's like 2 or 3 ounces plus the battery. It's nothing. And then the Cole Clark. The Cole Clark has its dedicated system. It's a big fat sound. And that's the guitar that I gig with at the moment. So I'm hoping things change. I'm hoping we get new products this year. I'd love to see some new IR pedals. I'd love to see Neural do acoustic IRs. And I'd love to see new guitars that promise to be like thin lines that sound like a mic. But I'm talking about an actual microphone, not like a microphone. I want it to sound identical so I could actually record an album with it. That'd be great for live streaming as well. So that's my answer. My thing is, at the minute, just get a great pickup. But the best pickup for me is the Anthem pickups because they're a combination of an undersaddle and a real microphone. There's no hassle. They're very punchy. They sound really good. And the other option is a dedicated stage guitar like the Cole Clark because you just get a big fat sound. You've got the controls on there. You can change it all around. I do think the IRs are the future, but I think the IRs are not ready yet. They still need more. We still need more development of the acoustic IRs to be truly worth using. And even then, we're going to have to use them in a certain way. It won't just be a case of make the IR and stick it through the system and go. It's still going to need EQ or blending. So that's my answer. Hope I didn't bore anyone with that. I'd like to hear your thoughts about using acoustic guitars and different types of pickups on stage with a band. So with a band, yeah, again, Anthem. And what you do is you install the SL pickup controls up further into the sound hole so you can't see them. And then you can still use a feedback buster if you're in a band. You need that with a band. Okay? And if you really don't want that, if you can be a really loud band, do not use a K&K. Use either a sound hole pickup or just an undersaddle. But I'm not a fan of those systems. I need to have the mic and the undersaddle. I need the two sources. If you're always playing in a loud band, maybe get the full anthem, then you can turn the mic off. But then you have to have the thing in the sound hole, so it's harder to make a feedback cover because you have to cut a slot for it. So I would say get the SL and stick that control further in. Then you don't see the controls and you can plug the hole completely, which will really help. I'm a big fan of plugging the sound hole these days. I think it's really important in those sort of situations. Tab is play by numbers. I never liked tab. I used to use it. I guess now we have YouTube, so we just look at. Like I was learning this song, so I watched Cifra. I like that Cifra Club. They're good. So I was watching that, and I just watched where his hand. I knew it was up here somewhere because I could hear from the high pitch, right? And you know it's on the lower strings because you can hear that it's a fatter sound. If it was played down here, where would it be? Yeah, like if it was played here, it's the same notes, but it's a thinner tone. So you could hear it, right? So I knew it, but I didn't know exactly. So I just watched and I saw his hand was here. So I figured out, oh, it must be that. So that's an easy song. I guess if you're learning a solo or something, the tabs could be useful. I like to use everything. I think it's good to listen to the song, use your ears. It's good to watch someone play it as long as they're playing it correctly, like the original version, and see what they're doing, and then have the tabs. And some people might want the sheet music. I think it's good to use a combination of all the sources to learn songs. So the same person said, I really like a K&K style and IRs when play alone and voice only. But when playing with cajon, bass, mandolin, and a few more guitars, the undersaddle internal mic seems to be a more stable solution. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I do have a video, when I did the live streams where I had the K&K with the tone Dexter, I really like that tone. I did get some great tones from that rig, the same as you have. But it doesn't translate to the stage at all for me. It's a complete pain in the butt. And that's why I don't want to use K&K anymore. I'm going to make the review of that system and I'm going to pull it out and throw it in the garbage. But I know there's so many fans of it, and I wanted to be a fan of it because of its low profile, uninvasive thing. And it can sound good, just raw through the PA and with the right EQ and the right DI can sound very good. But with the IR and stuff, it can just, you have problems with feedback unless you blend it exactly right, and it can sound thinner. I just not for me anymore. Unfortunately, I wanted it to be, but I don't think so. And you just don't get such a fat sound. You know, with an undersaddle pickup, you get a fat, in your face, direct, quick attack sound, don't you? You don't get that from like a K&K. I'm hoping there'll be more K&K style pickups this year. I believe there will be, and I would check them out again if they were easy to install. But I agree. Once you're in a band, you want the undersaddle and the mic. So I would say just use that for everything then. You know, I don't, unless you've got two guitars and you want one to have the K&K and the IRs and one to have, you know, for home or solo, and you want the other guitar to be the anthem for gigs. But I don't know. I don't think I would do that. I think personally, I would just do what I said earlier. I would just go with the anthem or the dedicated guitar like the Cole Clark. I wouldn't have two. Lately, I'm just all about convenience, and I don't mind EQing a pickup as feeding back. I don't mind doing it, but it is another step that I don't want to have to do. You know, if I don't need to do it, I'd rather not do it. So. Confirmation bias. That's right. We all get that. But like I said, I don't like to intentionally try to trick people either. But I just know if I came on and said, this is a modeler, the first thought is it's going to suck, right? The first thought that hits the brain is modeler, crap, it'll suck. And then you hear it. Well, I guess it's all right. Yeah, but I can hear it's a modeler. I can hear it sounds digital. You know? But no. I owned a Princeton. Remember I sold that Princeton I had throughout the lockdown? This sounds just as good. You know, when I used to run that through the aux box, this sounds just as good as that. I might even say it sounds better. And I can turn this up loud through the monitors as loud. I can take this tone and turn it up as loud as I want through the monitors. I didn't love the Princeton. It was only good on like volume 3. It sounded a bit like this. And then once I turned it up more, it lost all its headroom. So there's no way I could ever gig with that. Once I took it to a gig, I wouldn't be able to gig with it. So I didn't see the point in keeping it. And then I just never really I hate to say it because people sound crazy. Actually, the person that bought it from me said that a tube had blown. So I wasn't sure what that was all about. So maybe I wasn't hearing it at its best as well, to be fair. Or maybe that happened in shipping. But this, to me, is just as good or better than that sound. Yes, okay, you don't get the amp in the room sound. You're hearing it direct. You're playing it direct. But the tone is just so rich and nice. Very, very happy with this Quad Cortex thing. Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I did videos for years like, this is how you make this sound better, or this is how you program this MIDI controller for this product, and then how you can link it to an iOS app. And then the minute the app started to crash, I suddenly thought, hang on, I'm never going to use this, because if this thing can crash on me, that's going to be a real problem. So I just abandoned that altogether. And now I can still do that stuff. I wasn't clever with that stuff. I literally spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out and do it by trial and error, and try to find, secret things, and that I just don't want to do that anymore. And that's why I keep talking about that this Quad Cortex. It's so easy to use, and everything just sounds good. Not many products are like that, where it's easy to use and it sounds good. So I think that's a new benchmark for me. Any digital product released now in 2023 should have, I'm not going to say it should have a touchscreen or an app, or that'd be nice, but it should at least be easy to use without a manual, and just everything sounds and works as it's supposed to. I don't want to be waiting for firmware updates and waiting for editors to come out, which you could argue is I am with the Quad Cortex, but yeah, that's a bad example, but it does sound good. It is easy to use. And again, like I said about the Boss stuff, it's fiddly. There's no editor at all, and there's no the interface there's no touchscreen. The interface is hard to use. So we definitely need to see some more modern technology in these gadgets. And the touchscreen on these things isn't like an iPad. That would be lovely if it was. They're lower quality than those because they're trying to make money, and they're not Apple, right? I understand that, but they're still good enough, and they're much more fun to use than like little tiny buttons and knobs and things like that. Yeah, Jeff. Oh, the Quad Cortex. I know I sound like a complete shill, I sound like like I'm doing a commercial for them today. I am not. I had 3 of them. I sold the first 2 because I was frustrated with the lack of features they promised. But now Type 2.0 is out. I have one now, and I'm very happy with it. And that's the one I'm going to commit to on the channel going forward, for reasons of the form factor and the sound and the flexibility. So that I'm selling everything else. I'm just keeping that for electric guitar. That's it. And that's what I'll be talking about in my videos. So I will be talking about it a lot, because that's going to be like my main gadget for electric guitar. So I apologize, but that's the way it's going to be. And I also don't want to keep jumping around like, oh, let's do a Helix video, let's do a Kemper video, let's do no offense to Doc. I know, I get it, and you appeal to more people. But personally, I only said that because he's just had all those on his channel, although he has sold some of those now. I want to focus in on stuff that I'm using for 2 reasons. One is so when I go to the gig, even if it's easy to use, I can think, oh, I need to make a change, and I just go, blah, 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 it's done. I haven't got to think, what product am I using? And the other reason is so people that come here know that I'm pushing what I actually like. And I bought it with my own money, but that's what I like. I don't want to personally try to cover lots of things just to get the views. I mean, I've kind of tried that in the past. I get that does work for some people, and that's probably a smart idea. But I just want to talk about stuff that I genuinely use, basically. I want to talk about the stuff that I use. I'm not saying that's the best for everyone, but I don't see the point in talking about stuff that I don't use professionally. So that's why I'm going to talk about that a lot going forward. Jeffrey says, agreed on the need for an editor on the 500. Great summary of the loopers. Yeah, thank you. Sounds like a dance tune now. Which one? Oh, Wonderwall. No, that would need That doesn't sound like a dance tune. That sounds like a cheesy dance tune. Lee is studying at 50 years old. I knew I would have lessons at school. I should have listened at school. That's good. It's always good to learn. Yes, we have our first cue. Good job, Steve. You read the memo. Henriksen Bud. Have you tried one? My Bud 6 is fantastic for acoustic and electric. I have. I bought one when they first came out. So I don't like talking about gear that I used years ago because I feel like I've had more of an education since then. Like 10 years ago, I hadn't played many tube amps. I didn't own a tube amp really. You know, I was sort of not new to gear, and I had an orange when I was in England, but that thing kept going wrong. But I've had a lot more. Like if I had one here right now, I'd have a much stronger opinion than what I can have. But I just found it a bit, from memory, I found it a bit, I mean, it's a very small box, and I found it was a little bit small. It did work well for electric. I think it's voiced for electric, right? But for whatever reason, the control, I don't, I didn't keep it. I didn't gel with it. But it is a good amp, and a lot of people use it. And I think if you want something for like jazz, clean electric, it's a great idea. I still like the idea of having a dedicated acoustic amp, a fancy one, like the AER or the Bud. But I can't justify it since the battery-powered PAs came out and since I've been using the PA speakers, especially since I now use the Voice Live 3 and always have it with me. I can't really justify that anymore. I thought about getting one last year, like a dedicated acoustic amp, but I just thought, no, why do I need that? I'm better off having a really good PA. And that's always the thing with me, because I sing as well. I need a good PA system. So I have two K10s and two K8s so I can go and play a wedding band. And I can just take one of those K8s and use that as an acoustic amp. But that, to me, that's going to blow away any acoustic amp on the market because it's a bigger box with more volume, more headroom. And I just plug in my TC pedal and I have all the features I need that you wouldn't have on an acoustic amp. So I get why some people still want acoustic and small amps like that, but that doesn't fit into my workflow anymore. But I have heard a lot of players use the Bud and say it's a very good amp. So I'm sure it sounds great. I'm sure that's why you're a fan of it. I'm also sure in the years since I tried one, they've made revisions to it because that happens with all amplifiers as well. So I would try one again. But like I said, my thought lately is, and especially with this whole mindset of like being more kind of condensed, have the PA, which is like two tops, two monitors, and the mixer. And then if you get like a solo gig, take one of those monitors. And if you get a duo gig, take two of the monitors. If you get a band gig, take the whole PA. So you have like a modular system. That's my thoughts. IRs are the future. Well, they are. Digital is the future with everything. Digital phones have replaced cameras. I'm still using a DSLR up here because it has the big lens. But one day the phone will be good enough, and it is now, I'm sure, to have the phone up there doing this live stream. I'm sure it wouldn't be that far off this quality. You know, soon these big cameras will be obsolete once the phones get even bigger lenses and the software is even more impressive. It's definitely the future. And I know I've said many times on here that there's nothing better than a tube amp. Well, in this room, playing through a tube amp, I still believe that. There's something about the attack and that speaker that gives you this punchy sound that you don't get from the digital stuff, because the digital stuff is IRs, right, which is a microphone emulation. It's a different experience. But as the technology gets better and better and better, and you know, I love the reason I do this channel and I love it is I love doing the experiments. When I did the blind comparison of the Rain song and the Martin, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people chose the Rain song, that's for me, that's like, I don't want to say it's scientific proof, It's not science. It's not really science at all, is it? But it's reality. Like, a lot of people preferred the sound of the Rain Song. Now, I didn't rush out and sell all the Martins, but it did give me more perspective, and it did make me appreciate the Rain Song more, because I probably had that bias in my head as well of, oh, that's a carbon fiber guitar, it's not wood. So doing the channel and doing things like that gives me more reassurance of my decisions. And so did last Thursday, when I did the JP versus the Quad Cortex. I really felt they sounded the same. And I was really excited because I've not had any other product do that without a lot of extra work done to it. So I just thought to myself, this is it. So that's it. I'm good. And no one said on the video they didn't like the sound of it. In fact, some people said a couple of people said they preferred the sound of the Quad Cortex. One person said they preferred the sound of the amp because of the low end response. But I honestly, that was good enough for me that I couldn't tell a difference. And it was good for me as well that other people agreed it sounded really great. So that's great. I think going forward, that's what gear should do. You should be able to just do that. So if you buy a modeler that promises to model an amp, you should be able to plug it in next to the amp in the guitar store, and they should sound the same, and then you buy it. Or if you buy a carbon guitar and it promises to sound great, you should put it up against the Martin. It should, put a blindfold on, and they should both sound great. I think that's the real test of this stuff. An unbiased, well, I keep wanting to say scientific, but unbiased comparison between the two things of the tone, because the tone is the most important thing, isn't it? The tone is the most important thing with any gear, really. And then user interface, and then looks, and then other things. So I love doing those tests, because that stops me doubting myself. It's really great. It gives you a lot of confirmation of your choices, when you do that. Well, okay, so the thing about the amp in the room sound is it's also like, in this small room, it's awesome because the sound bounces off the walls and it's right there in your face. But I have done a few gigs where the amp in the room was not a success, and didn't really talk about that, but there's a few problems. If you get a light amp, which is like 25 watts, like mine is, you can only keep it clean to a certain point, and then it's going to break up, and that's not loud enough over the band in that big room. So you have to keep it low, so you don't really hear much of it behind you anyway, and then run it into the PA. So is it worth even having it? The solution is to take a 100-watt amp with a ton of headroom, but most of those are big and weigh a lot of weight. Are you prepared to carry that around? I don't think I am. And I even took a 50-watt amp to a gig outside, and I struggled to get it loud enough. So I think would really need a 100-watt amp to do a cover gig. The great thing about the modeler is they're tiny, but also you set the tone. So if you set this tone on a Princeton right now, and it sounded like this in the room, right? If you did that in the room, that's great. But then what would happen is if you took that to a gig, that would not be loud enough. If it's loud in your little room, it's not going to be loud enough in a band with a drummer in a large venue with a high ceiling, right? So what do? You turn up the master volume. Well, then it starts to distort. And we love when tube amps distort like that, if we want that sound. But if you want this sound, you can't. You've hit if that's as loud as you can go with that amp, because you've run out of headroom because the wattage is too low, you can't turn it up anymore. But with this sound, through the Quad Cortex, you plug it into the PA, and you can turn it as loud as you want, because your PA is 2,000 watts of speaker, and you've got 4 of them. And you could even stick one behind you if you want. I don't think that's necessary, but or especially if you've got in-ears as well. The point is you can just have this exact tone and just turn up the masters, and it won't break up. It'll just keep getting louder and louder and louder and louder. That's something that you can't get from a tube amp, but that's something that's not very practical in a loud band. I don't think a lot of people think about that. The only way you can turn up that amp like that is if it's 100 watts, and you can keep going up and up and up and up and up, and the headroom doesn't start to kick in. But I am not going to carry a 60-pound amp, with a cab and a 1x12 cab and a 100-watt head. We're talking about 80 pounds maybe combined. Another reason I want to keep the Quad Cortex, I've realized it's got the 4 inputs. So I realized until this point, I've done trio gigs in the past in the city, and they're a bit of a hassle to take an amp and a PA and a mixer and all the cables. I mean, the cables are the worst thing. I did a band gig last year, and it took me an hour to pack away the cables because there's so many cables, right? So what I've realized is now is if I got called for a trio gig in a bar, I could do it because I haven't got to try to charge so much money that they say no. I can charge a decent amount of money, but I won't have a problem going there because the Quad Cortex fits in my guitar case, and that is going to be that could be the mixer and the guitar amp, and then you just take 2 powered PA speakers, a bag of stands, and a few cables, and you just run the bass player's mic into the Quad Cortex, my mic into the Quad Cortex, my guitar into the Quad Cortex, the bass guitar into the Quad Cortex, and they could bring a little amp if they want to. They don't need to. Run it into the 2 PA speakers and just stand like just next to the PA speaker, like I used to, like this, and you can play a trio gig. Versus, I think 10 years ago I did a few gigs, band gigs. I took a big combo amp, mixing board, and still the 2 speakers. So we're talking about an amp and a mixing board, and then the extra cables as well. That all adds up, you know. And it's right there. It could be worth thousands of dollars. You're also risking at the gig. So that's another reason why I think technology should make the gear more portable and practical as well. I wish the QC came with a built-in expression pedal. You see, I'm glad it doesn't because I don't use the pedal very much. So I'm glad it's not there because then it wouldn't fit in my gig bag anymore. So what you want to do is just buy an expression pedal and take it with it. Or if you do make a board out of it, then you can put it on the board. That's a good idea. But I personally would rather have it separate to make the thing even smaller and lighter. The doctor is making videos on them all and then selling them off. And I presume you're going to end up keeping the head rush, right? Because you're a head rush guy. Scott, it's been a long time. How you doing, buddy? He says, kiss. Keep it simple, silly. I thought it was keep it simple, stupid. No? I want as little between my guitar and my amp as possible. So guitars with built-in multi-source pickups straight into my amp of choice. Now, is that because you feel like when you add more pedals, it interrupts your tone? Or is it because you don't want the hassle of the extra pedals and the batteries and the power supplies and more things to plug in? What's the reason? But I think about this sometimes. Even if there was a pedal that made my acoustics sound $1 million, you know, my Cole Clark already sounds incredible. So if it sounded like doubly incredible, would I want to take that pedal? I don't know. It's such a tough one to answer when you're a gigging musician. Okay, you already answered my question. Less to carry, less to set up, and less to... You know, it's the small things. Like when I have the Voice Live 3 and the PA speaker, most venues have 2 outlets, right? So I bought a longer plug for my Voice Live 3, so I can plug that into one outlet, plug it in, and plug in my IEC kettle lead to the other outlet and plug it into the PA speaker. If I want to run a third pedal, I've got to get out the long multi-extension cord, plug that in and plug it into that. So that's already another... It sounds silly, but that's a long cable. You got to wrap the thing up, you know, put it away. It's another step that you've eliminated by just having the 2 things. That's something. It's something. And then... Yeah, or even if you've got battery power, you haven't got to worry about the batteries or anything. You literally just plug in those 2 power supplies, plug them in, and go. And to me, that's a big deal. Like, the product needs to be really amazing for me to have to take an additional like extension cord and the additional power supply and that product, and then you need another guitar cable in between that. So you've already added quite a bit of gear to what is a... Remember, I have a small setup. So you've already added like another 15, 20% of gear on top of what you already have just to add that tone to your guitar. The funny thing is electric players don't complain about that. Electric players always take pedals to gigs. No electric player really shows up to a band and just hands the sound engineer a cable and says, plug me right into the board. It can be done, but I think that's a funny thing with electric players. Like this amp simulator... Right, we're willing to take that, but we're not willing as acoustic players to take acoustic enhancements. We want to go straight in. So I don't really get that concept. The one thing that would change my mind is if Neural built in acoustic IR creation to the Quad Cortex and vocal harmonies. I would happily ditch my Voice Live 3 and take the Quad Cortex. I would miss a few features like the in-ear monitoring microphones and that stuff, but at that point I would be willing to take it, and I would be willing then to use IRs and mess around with them again because it'd be in my existing box. So yeah, I'm over the years I got more and more about convenience as well, definitely. Anthem SL, where do you set the blend between the mic and the undersaddle? So the Anthem, the full Anthem is the one that has the blend. And I set mine on 100% because I don't like hearing the piezo. So therefore, the reason I recommend the SL is that there is no blend. It's all mic. That's the same thing. So an Anthem set to 100% mix of the mic is the same thing as an SL. But you do have the control inside to make it brighter, make the mic hotter and therefore brighter. I wouldn't put that at 100%. I would put that around 50% and then adjust it over a few shows to find the sweet spot that I'm looking for. But that's why I like the SL, because I don't use the blend anyway in the full Anthem, and it's cheaper, and it's a hotter output, and you can hide the controls in the guitar. No one does that, by the way. I don't know why they don't do it. I would always do that, because as much as I love LR Bags and they're great people, but I don't want to see that the yellow box in the sound hole personally. For my needs, I like the Kemper and ultimately the FM9. I always keep a head rush of some sort. So I tried the FM9, and it's just, yeah, again, to set that thing up is a complete hassle, and you need the editor to use the interface on that thing. It's a drag. And I did some comparisons between that and my real amp at the time. I had a Triple Crown when I had that, and they did not sound the same, in the same way that the Quad Cortex does sound the same. But yeah, a lot of people are loving them. The effects, there's more effects, they're better effects. It's got less quirks. They're a more mature company. I get all that stuff. But again, the main reason why the Quad Cortex is best for me is those mic inputs, because I sing. If you do not sing, I think the FM9 could be a better choice, or the Kemper, because you don't care about the mic input, right? But as someone that wants an all-in-one that will also be a mixer, those mic inputs are invaluable, and I'm so glad it has them. Can you do a video on what you bring to gigs, solo and band, and differences of the two setups? Yeah, I can. But the band thing has been changing every time, and I don't do them regularly. It would be more like, what would I take to a band gig? And yeah, well, what I would take is the two tops, the two monitors, a digital mixer. So it's all a QSC rig and the Quad Cortex. And then a trio where I want to get in and out of a bar quickly would be just the two tops and the Quad Cortex. Acoustic would be the Voice Live 3 Extreme only. But I will do that. I'm basically gonna do a video at some point where I just open the gig bag and pull the stuff out and say what each thing is for, because I think that'll be useful to people that want to copy my rig. I wanted to switch. Let me just have a quick tea, because it always goes cold by the end. I want to switch the Helix Stomp to QC, but I often play some surf and garage stuff. QC still lacks crazy drip reverb tank sounds and weird fuzzers like Super Fuzz. Or does it? Well, 2.0 adds some fuzz captures, which I don't know why, because they said they couldn't capture them very well, but they're in there, so I guess they must be decent. And, I mean, the reverbs are good enough for me. There's a spring in there. If you can get one on a return policy, I would do it. I much prefer the amp sounds in the QC to the Helix stuff. Just blows it away for me. But, and also you play acoustic, so you could plug your acoustic into it as well, which is very appealing. And the stomp is so limited to me. It's meant to be a portable device, which I get that, and that's cool. But the QC is a bit bigger and then much more powerful with more buttons, so that's why more foot switches. So that's why I like that thing so much. I would just say, and I hate this, I hate when people are saying this online, that they will add that stuff. Because I was giving them a really hard time about 2.0, like having no hybrid mode and no looper for a while. they have added it. And when they do make the updates, it's taken them a long time, but when they do make the updates, they're very, very good. And that annoys me too, because a lot of people, I've basically said that I'm committing to this now. This is my thing, right? So many people online will say where are the updates? Where's the update? Where's the update? It doesn't do this. But then they release a really good update, which is very commendable, and no one says, oh, that's a really good update. Yeah, good job, guys. They don't do that. They just keep asking for more, more, more. So I personally, I believe that it will get all the things you want, and it is a good investment, but I also don't believe in buying something that doesn't have what you want. And it was that 2.0 that made it, that made me want it with the new modes in it, the hybrid mode. So maybe don't get one yet, but I definitely would consider getting one if they add more stuff to it in the future. And maybe next time. I can't get to it now. It's buried under the background, but I could show you the effects next time. I had vinyl in 1979 when I learned all my Don McLean songs. That's why the record is just he wore it out. Bimo, how you doing? Trainer AM standard acoustic amp has mic and guitar inputs and more. Yeah, a lot of the acoustic. See, the thing is, there's this thing now, like an acoustic amp. What is an acoustic amp? Some of them are basically mini PA systems, like low power PA systems. So I would rather just have a simple mixer. So and the gear now has changed the market, because you can now get a small lightweight PA speaker and a small lightweight mixer from Elite Acoustics. And that blows away, although it's two devices, not one, it blows away any acoustic amp for both volume and features. And I've used that for a while, it's really good. Some acoustic amps deliberately change the tone in the same way that an electric guitar amp changes the tone for your electric deliberately to give you that sound. Some acoustic amps do that as well. And sometimes that can be really good, and sometimes that can not be really good. Like the Mesa, I always say it wrong, Mesa Boogie. The Mesa Boogie acoustic amp, I tried that one a few years ago. I did not like what it did to the tone. But with some players and some pickups, they might like it. I was actually looking at the time for a transparent sound, and that's when I realized, what am I doing? Why don't I just use great studio monitors at home and great PA systems at gigs? But I still get the value. I would not, if I had a bigger place and had the space and the money and everything, I wouldn't say no to having like an AER Compact 60 around just for that. But I think we're at a stage now where it's better to get gear that does multiple things, because so much gear now does so many things well. So I think the acoustic amps were more, I'm not going to say they're worthless now. They're still, like I said, I would still like to have one. But I think they serve more of a purpose like 10 years ago, when we didn't have these excellent little affordable mixers, and we didn't have these lighter weight, high performance PA speakers. And also when acoustic guitar pickups truly did sound pretty bad, because the way they color the sound could help that out. Like the Fishman amps really make their pickups sound a lot better. But I'd rather just have now a pickup that sounds great and put it through a PA speaker, a completely flat PA speaker. Do you ever take your keyboard out to your solo shows? Seems like it would be a great addition. I did when I was younger. I'd be sitting there at the keyboard with the guitar on my lap. I don't do it anymore. Again, it's gear. It's a gear thing. I agree. It'd be nice to, every 10 songs, play a song on the piano, especially if it's a very popular song. But I don't like to sit and play. I like to stand and play. And I could have it next to me. I could do a Dovey Das, right, and have it next to me while I'm playing. But again, I'm all about that compact rig. So that's another thing to take. If the venue had a keyboard and a PA and it was ready to go, I'm not going to say I would just jump on there and do a song. I'd have to practice, because before I did the few songs on the lockdown streams, I hadn't played for years, because I just love playing the guitar. So I would definitely practice and do some. But again, for traveling purposes, I want to travel light. But yeah, good. That's a good point. Eddie, 2 heavy amps is a big no. Only have one AR Compact 60 and AR Alpha 40 for my gigs, and they do fine for that. If they work, it's whenever I talk about stuff, it's my experience. It's where I play, and it's also the way you play and what you play. All these things matter. So I don't play big venues. I play in bars and restaurants, but there's some pickups and speakers that just do not work in those environments. So for me, an AER Compact 60, I did gig with the Compact 60 Plus, the bigger one, or the double the power one. When I first moved to America, I gigged with that for 2 or 3 years. But there were nights when it was pushing too hard and it was getting harsh on the vocal. That does not happen with a 2000-watt speaker. It's just physics, right? So yes, I did. I also gigged with one. Now, if I was gigging in smaller places where people were listening to me, I probably could gig with one. That would probably be fine. But sometimes the talking is so loud, I need to have that extra headroom available to turn it up a bit. I know it's not the ideal solution, but that's what I need when I play. John, you have to go and watch the from the beginning later. This is Mexican. I talked about it earlier. It's the Mexican Tele Deluxe. That's my oldest. This is the guitar I've had the longest. This is about, what year is this? I'm trying to figure out if it tells me the year on the back. I don't think it does. This must be 2004, maybe? Oh, it says '04. Yep, there we go. This is a 2004. This will soon be 20 years old. This will soon be a vintage guitar. But because it's Mexican built, no one will want to buy it. But it's proof that you can get. I mean, a couple of things. I guess the tuners are very plasticky and cheap. I would actually I'd like to change the tuners. They're just like light plastic. Some people like that because it gets some of the weight away, and they're not a problem. They're fine, but I would like to nicer tuners. And I changed the pickups. Everything else is stock and it's fine. There is a new version. There is now the ultra, the American Professional, the newer versions that are made in America. I'm sure they're great too, but it's a very solid guitar. The amp the BMO's talking about is 150 watts, true stereo, 27.5 pounds. You see, I'm just going to say my opinion again. Don't be mad at me, but 27.5 pounds will get me for that weight will get me a QSC K8.2, which is rated 2,000 watts. And the acoustic amp you're talking about, it is stereo, although it's stereo in a box. It's not like you got two of them, which would give you a wider stereo field, but it's 150 watts. So to me, if the audience is loud and I want to turn it up, it's going to start compressing and breaking up. Whereas the QSC, you just keep going up and up and up, and it maintains that headroom, See you later, Pooh. Let me just Google this to see exactly what it is, because I don't know what it is. Trainer AM standard acoustic. 150 watts. You see, it's $1,000. So for $1,000, you can get a QSC and a small mixer, almost. I don't know. That's just how I think lately. I know that some people want a dedicated amp on stage, like some people want a dedicated electric amp on stage. I know that some people want all the effects and everything built in. But for me, for what I do these days, $1,000, I would much rather recommend someone puts that into a QSC 8.2 and an Elite Acoustics mixer and a couple of cables, and then they can do any gig. And they can plug in 4 instruments, and they can have compression and all this other stuff, So I'm not really into acoustic amps lately. I'm not saying I wouldn't try one, but oh, good. Congratulations. The Rain Song is scheduled to arrive on Wednesday. So Rexomatic did order the Rain, I over here, the Rain Song WS1000 Classic, and that promotion ends tomorrow. So no, I do not work for Rain Song. I have no financial incentive with Rain Song. But tomorrow is the last day that you can order that guitar with the $500 off. And I do love mine. And I also said to Rexomatic, let me know if they've started drilling that little hole at the end, because I do believe that's essential when you use the pickup. And if they haven't, you should probably do it yourself. But be careful. Don't blame me if it goes wrong. I just want to know if they've started to do it there, because I did tell them about it. Yeah, still waiting on updates for QC's reverbs. Just like I bought Helix right after they added Hot Springs reverb. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the Line 6 added those reverbs fairly recently, didn't they? The newest, like, fancy ones, like the Hot Springs and that. So yeah, I'm sure the Quad Cortex will get those. I mean, again, it took, Line 6 didn't have them at the start, right? They came later on. So I think what Neural are doing is getting all the basics done, like the hybrid mode and the file structure, and then they'll work more on the effects. I presume. I presume that's what they're doing. Personally, I just, to me, a reverb is a reverb. I mean, this reverb here, I did turn down the mix a bit, but I mean, I like it. I like it. But yes, if you're looking for specific effects, like I know there's no reverse delay and things like that. I never use those, but if you need that effect, then yes, I wouldn't get one. You're right. $750 US dollars. Mine says Trainer acoustic amp, $1,039. The 65 watt version is $850. The 150 watt stereo version is $1,039. See, I wouldn't do that. That's a lot of money. In fact, they're all a lot of money, aren't they? That's the thing with acoustic amps. They're a lot of money for the power that you get, which is not very much. So, my friends, let me know if there's any last requests or last questions, should I say. And watch out for a video this week. I have a music business video coming, and I have that giveaway I still haven't done, which I will do this week, because I did promise them I would do it. And I'll just give a quick advert now. If you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell. It really helps me out. Watch my videos. That helps even more. I have the news on Fridays. That I love doing the news because I spend all week reading the stories and researching anyway. So now I do a news video about those stories on Fridays. That's Friday afternoons. So watch out for those and do share with your friends and comment if you like it, or just comment anyway. It all helps me out. Live streams on Mondays and random videos in the week, which is why you should ring the bell so it tells you when I post a video. BMO, no, that's Adorama.com. They're American. $1,039. Yep. That's what it says. Of course, you can shop around. I know a way of getting the AER amps very cheaply, but I still didn't decide to buy one. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, ring the bell. I'll see you soon. Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you for moderating. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I appreciate it. It's fun as always. I love the random topics and just going off on stuff. It's a lot of fun. Good to see you, Lee. We'll be emailing you soon to arrange something. Ooh, are you coming to America? That'd be nice. Have a great week, everyone. Like I said, if you're new here, subscribe, ring the bell. I should have a video out on Mondays, live stream. Wednesdays should be a record. Wednesday or Thursday should be a recorded video. For every Friday is the news. That midweek one varies. So if you ring the bell, it will tell you when that video goes live. And that's just going to be random stuff. Like I said, the ones coming up that I must do are this music business one and also the giveaway for the acoustic pedal. So they're probably going to be the ones you see next. And then as I sell more gear, you'll be seeing those things pop up before I ship them off. I quickly make a video about them. So subscribe, ring the bell, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm not lost, but I'm not found. I'm not up, but I'm not down. I love you and I love you and I love you and I love you, and it's so easy. I love you and I love you and I love you and I love you, and it's so hard. But all I'm really sure of is I'm not happy and not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not blue, red, black or green, got no favorite thing. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not wrong, but I'm not right. I'm not lazy, but I don't try. I need you and I need you and I need you and I need you, and it's not easy. I need you and I need you and I need you and I need you, and it's not hard. All I'm really sure of is just don't know why. Me, I'm not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not blue, red, black or green, got no favorite thing. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not blue, red, black or green, got no favorite thing. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. Somewhere in between.